Fast and the Furious. Ja Rule all one, yeah, it's
Hey everybody, thanks for joining me on episode 2 of the Empty Theater web series. Today I'll be talking about the franchise that, like a fine wine, gets better with age. It's the Fast and the Furious.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
Now, in order to fully understand the glitch in the Matrix that is the Fast and the Furious franchise, we have to go all the way back to 2001. The original The Fast and the Furious was just a mediocre at best knockoff of Point Break. A cop goes undercover with adrenaline junkie criminals and then becomes enamored with the lifestyle. Spoiler alert, he lets the criminal go, just like in Point Break.
You know what you're doing?
I owe you a 10-second car.
And while the first film itself really isn't all that good, we do see a spark of something that could be good. Unfortunately, Universal Studios saw something else, a different spark, where we as the audience saw the chemistry between Paul Walker's Brian O'Connor and Vin Diesel's Dominic Toretto, and the potential for great stories with Michelle Rodriguez's Letty Ortiz and Jordana Brewster's Mia Toretto. Universal saw the auto racing as the draw and decided that that's the direction to drive the franchise. That gave us the nosedive into diminishing returns that is Too Fast, Too Furious. Vin Diesel backed out of Too Fast because he didn't like the direction the studio was taking it. Paul Walker did come back because he wanted to see if maybe they can make something out of it, but what we were left with is a hollow shell of what the first one was. It lacked that character dynamic that we had in the first one. Sure, we get introduced to Chris Ludacris Bridges as Tej and Tyrese Gibson as Roman, who are great and integral parts to the rest of the franchise, but the film itself was lacking, a fact that they didn't learn when they plowed ahead with Fast and Furious 3 Tokyo Drift. In Tokyo Drift, beyond the street racing theme, we don't really have any ties to the previous installments. This should have been the final nail in the coffin of the franchise, as it failed to make even half its budget at the box office. But Justin Lin was able to find that hook that made the first one so endearing and bring it into Tokyo Drift. We're introduced to Sung Kang as Han, one of the more intriguing characters of the franchise, and second spoiler alert, Vin Diesel shows up at the end as an old friend of Han's. Hindsight shows that Justin Lin was setting the foundation for a larger narrative arc that would become the turning point for the franchise in the fourth installment, simply named Fast and Furious. While it wasn't a complete critical success, it did fare better than its predecessors, it doubled its budget back at the box office, and it reunited Vin Diesel and Paul Walker, which were the keystone of the Fast and Furious franchise. Justin Lin, and despite their best efforts, Universal Studios had finally figured out the winning formula to the franchise. That it was all about Dom, Brian, and the crew that brought the audiences to the theater, and that the cars were just a narrative tool that was just a thing that set it apart from other action films. We've got the death of Letty, the introduction of Giselle and Han to the main story, and the burying of the hatchet between Brian and Dom. All this culminated in the Fast 5 renaissance in 2011.
All right, listen up. The men we're after are professional runners. They like speed and guaranteed to go down the hardest possible way, so make sure you got your underwear on. We find them, we take them as a team, and we bring them back. And above all else, we don't ever let them get in the cars. Crime scene's 10 hours old and counting, men. Let's go hunt.
Now Fast and Furious can become the action franchise it was meant to be. We no longer have a focus on the street races. They're still there, you can't get rid of those. They're the spirit, the essence of the films. But they take a backseat to the great car chases, the intense heists, and the all-out brawl between Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel that glued the action fan in me to my seat. Justin Lin further raised the stakes by taking a page out of Marvel's playbook and including a cliffhanger post-credit sequence.
Thank God! Finally some equipment I can work with.
What up, boy?
It's way better than that trash in Rio.
Way better. You sure about these guys?
Nope.
Who's paying for all this equipment? The taxpayers? So now we work for the Hawk? That's what we doing?
The globe-trotting adventures that started in LA and have taken us to Miami, Tokyo, the Mexican desert, and Rio de Janeiro now take us to London, where Hobbs, played by Dwayne Johnson, has recruited Dom and his crew to take down an international criminal. The same criminal that, spoiler alert, part 3, killed Letty. The layering of these story threads, as well as the overall narrative arc and the sharper focus on being an actual action film rather than just a street racing film, shows that they're putting love and care into these films. They aren't just phoning it in just to make a quick buck at the box office. And Justin Lin's dedication to craftsmanship of making a solidly entertaining product makes these all the much more fun to watch. I watched all the Fast and Furious films over the course of the weekend in order to refamiliarize myself with them in advance of this episode and the next one, which is my review of Furious 7, the latest installment. And while I wasn't completely on board with at least 2 of them, it was still a blast to spend my weekend watching these films. They're great, entertaining action. Now, the inner film nerd, the one that minored in film critique and studies, constantly wrestles with my pure base enjoyment of these films. And it's usually the latter that actually wins. Because not every film can be or should be a prestige film. I enjoy those. But sometimes you just gotta be entertained for a couple hours. And no franchise has done it better and more consistently than the Fast and the Furious franchise. If you, like several other people I know, gave up on the Fast and the Furious franchise after the second or third film, I wouldn't blame you, but go back and check them out. You'll be pleasantly surprised with how entertaining they are, and you'll find that it's not a bad way to spend a weekend watching those movies. I'm Brody, and this has been the second episode of the Empty Theater web series, all about Fast and the Furious. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.
All right, y'all, come on, let's do this. Okay, Roman. Bless our table.
Father, thank you for the gathering of friends. Father, we give thanks for all the choices we've made because that's what makes us who we are. Let us forever cherish the loved ones we've lost along the way. Thank you for the little angel, the newest addition to our family. Thank you for bringing Letty home. And most of all, thank you for fast cars.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining me on the Empty Theater web series. You can follow me on Twitter and like us on Facebook. Both those links are down in the description. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode. And be excellent to each other.